Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving into what's arguably one of the most profound mysteries in all of science, the true nature of the quantum vacuum. We're going to unpack something called the TSMUV framework. It's this radical, really mind-bending new perspective that suggests what you and I usually think of as absolute nothingness, well, it might actually be the foundation of absolutely everything.
So, what if empty space isn't actually empty at all? I want you to just challenge your most basic fundamental assumptions for a second here. When you look at the seemingly empty space right in front of you, you're probably picturing this vast, passive, empty void, right? But what if that exact emptiness is literally the most active, complex structure in existence? To really wrap our heads around this, let's quickly establish where standard physics currently stands. Right now, modern physics describes empty space as a fluctuating quantum vacuum. Now that sounds complicated, but basically it means it is emphatically not some dead, static background. It's actually this bubbling, superactive arena where energy and virtual particles are just constantly popping in and out of existence. Okay, so that's our baseline. But here's the huge, critical limitation we're facing today. While our math is absolutely incredible at mapping the effects of this vacuum, it completely fails to explain the true origin of its structure. Actually, to put that into perspective, to give you a real sense of the scale here, theoretical physics suggests that there is enough latent energy in a single coffee cup of empty space to literally boil all the oceans on Earth. Crazy, right? So we know the vacuum is doing something highly active. It's boiling with energy. But standard physics doesn't actually tell us where that activity comes from or why it operates the way it does. And honestly, this limitation is leading straight into a mounting crisis in modern physics. Because when we zoom all the way in to the very, very small scales, like the deepest foundational levels of reality, our mathematical equations just start to fail. They completely break down. The predictions get wildly unstable, they become incredibly difficult to interpret, and basically, our current map of reality essentially just falls right off a cliff. So this breakdown forces us to confront a really vital question. Does something deeper underlie what we currently call the vacuum? Okay, let's dive into this, because exploring the answer to this exact question is where the conventional road ends and a completely new paradigm begins.
Enter the TSMV framework. This theoretical approach proposes a massive, fundamental shift in how we view the cosmos. It suggests that space itself isn't just some hollow container for physical events to happen inside of. Rather, space itself actually possesses an inherent, internal geometric structure. Think about that. Space has its very own underlying architecture. Let's walk through exactly how this architecture operates. So the vacuum isn't just one big monolithic block. It's actually composed of these beautifully complex, nested structural layers. It's kind of like a highly dynamic set of Russian nesting dolls. And crucially, each one of these layers mathematically generates the specific, precise conditions necessary for the very next layer to emerge. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how this framework completely flips our entire understanding of matter. Look at standard physics. There, particles like electrons or quarks, they're treated as the fundamental, rock-bottom entities of the universe, the absolute base level. But in the TSNV framework, particles aren't fundamental at all. They're merely emergent configurations of that deeper underlying geometry we were just talking about. Now, to truly grasp the gravity of this, we have to look at the math. Psi of x equals the sum of f sub I of g sub I. I know it looks a bit dense, but this elegant, incredibly compact equation, it is literally the beating heart of the entire TSMV model. Let's break this down really quickly to see how it translates that hidden geometry into reality. That g sub I right there represents those hidden internal geometric structures of space itself. And the function f sub I describes exactly how those geometries project outward. So when you add them all up, the implication here is absolutely staggering. It means the particles that we're measuring in labs every single day might simply be the mathematical manifestations of these deep geometric shapes. Now, if that feels just a little bit too abstract, let's connect it back to a physical concept we can easily visualize. This exact type of mathematical behavior actually appears in wave systems all around us. Think of moving water in an ocean. You've got these underlying invisible dynamics, currents, pressures, and energy, all churning away down below. And from those deeper dynamics, stable, perfectly observable wave patterns consistently emerge right on the surface. So what specific patterns are actually emerging in the vacuum? while the underlying dynamics naturally take on highly symmetric forms. This includes perfectly spherical geometries and, really importantly, those nested layered geometries we were discussing earlier. It turns out that the universe, at its absolute lowest theoretical level, strongly favors symmetry and structure. Which brings us to this incredibly profound realization. Geometry is not only descriptive, but generative. I want you to really let that sink in, because this is the critical aha moment of the entire explainer. Normally, we use geometry just to measure the shape of things that already exist. But here, geometry is the engine. The geometry is quite literally generating physical reality. Now, at this point, you might be wondering, does this just throw out everything we already know about physics? It doesn't. Not at all. The TSMV framework does not contradict current standard physics. Instead, it elegantly reformulates it at a much deeper structural level. It completely allows for all of our known quantum fields and physical interactions to be described with total, rigorous mathematical consistency. So, the absolute crucial point to take away here is that quantum fields definitively still exist in this model, but they are no longer the absolute bottom floor of reality. They, along with literally all physical interactions, are now understood as emergent phenomena. They are the result of the geometry, rather than being the primary building blocks themselves. And this just brilliantly illustrates our new perspective. Going back to our water metaphor from earlier, just like waves on a surface, absolutely everything we observe, the stars, the planets, the devices we're using right now, even the particles flying through supercolliders, all of it may be only the outer layer of reality. We are simply observing the ripples on the outermost skin of existence. Because beneath that visible surface, deep down in the geometric depths that we cannot directly perceive, a highly structured vacuum could be silently acting as the hidden engine of the cosmos. It could be governing the behavior of absolutely all physical systems, completely from the ground up. Now, it's really important to acknowledge that this approach remains entirely theoretical right now. We can't go into a lab and isolate these geometric layers just yet. However, it provides a highly coherent, robust mathematical direction. It points a way out of that crisis in physics we talked about earlier by offering a beautifully clean geometric foundation. Just think about the sheer scale of what that means for science. If this is mathematically and experimentally validated, the TSMV framework would completely, permanently redefine our most basic concept of empty space. It would trigger a massive historical paradigm shift in how we understand the very fabric of the universe. Which leaves us staring at this beautifully counterintuitive possibility. So, I'm going to leave you with this highly provocative question to ponder. Is empty space actually the most structured entity in the entire universe? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the surface of reality, keep analyzing the structures all around you, and I will see you next time.